Good morning, students. Our today's topic of discussion is lesson number 4 from your English textbook, First Flight. The name of this lesson is From the Diary of Anne Frank. Children, this lesson is an extract from the autobiography of Anne Frank, uh, The Diary of a Young Girl. So now let's begin with the introduction part and then we will see the line by line explanation of the story. Anne Frank was born on 12th June 1929. She was a German-born Jewish girl who wrote while in hiding with her family and four friends in Amsterdam during the German occupation of the Netherlands in World War II. So children, here Anne, she was born on 12th June 1929 and she was belonging to Germany. She was a Jewish girl and she wrote this diary when she was hiding along with her family and four friends in Amsterdam during the Second World War when the Germany took hold of Netherlands through military force. So during that hiding, she wrote this diary. Her family had moved to Amsterdam after the Nazis gained power in Germany but were trapped when the Nazi occupation extended into the Netherlands. As persecutions against the Jewish population increased, the family went into hiding in July 1942 in hidden rooms in her father Otto Frank's office building. So here children, this family of Anne Frank, it moved to Amsterdam after the Nazis gained power in Germany. But soon they were trapped when Nazi occupation extended into the Netherlands. So when the persecutions, when the hostility and ill treatment against Jewish community increased, so this family, it went into some hiding in July 1942 in the hidden rooms of Anne's father Otto Frank's office building. They hid there behind some hidden rooms. After 2 years in hiding, the group was betrayed and transported to the concentration camp system where Anne died of typhus in Bergen-Belsen within days of her sister Margot Frank. Her father Otto, the only survivor of the group, returned to Amsterdam after the war ended to find that her diary had been saved. Convinced that it was a unique record, he took action to have it published in English under the name The Diary of a Young Girl. Here students, betrayed means exposed. Concentration camps are the camps that were made by Nazis to imprison people of Jewish community to await mass execution. And Bergen-Belsen is a name of such Nazi concentration camp that was made with the purpose of executing the people of Jewish community. So children, what did happen next with this girl? After 2 years in hiding, this group of means the family of Anne and those four friends of her family, they all were exposed and now they were transported to some concentration camp system where Anne died of typhus in Bergen-Belsen. That is the name of a concentration camp after the death of her sister Margot, within few days of the death of her sister. And then when the war ended, only her father could survive. So he returned to Amsterdam to find out the diary of Anne. And when he went through the pages of the diary, he found that it was really a unique record. So what did he do? He took action and he published and he made efforts to publish that diary in English under the name The Diary of a Young Girl. The diary was given to Anne Frank for her 13th birthday, and chronicles the events of her life from 12th June 1942 until its final entry of 1st August 1944. It was eventually translated from its original Dutch into many languages and became one of the world's most widely read books. So children, this diary in which she wrote so many experiences of her life, that diary was given to her as a birthday gift on her 13th birthday. And this diary, it records all the events of her life that took place from 12th June 1942 until its final entry that was made on 1st August 1944. Later on, this diary that was originally written in Dutch language, it was translated into many other languages, and this book, The Diary of a Young Girl, it became world's most widely read books. There have also been several films, television and theatrical productions, and even an opera based on the diary. Described as the work of a mature and insightful mind, the diary provides an intimate examination of daily life under Nazi occupation. Anne Frank has become one of the most renowned and discussed of the Holocaust victims. So students, on the basis of this diary, there are several films and television and theatrical productions that have been created. Even there is one opera also that is based on this diary. And this diary is really described as the work of a insightful and mature girl. This diary provides an intimate examination of the daily life of Nazi occupation, and here the Anne Frank has become famous and most renowned victim of Holocaust. Holocaust means mass killing during Nazi occupation. So children, this is the general introduction of the life of Anne Frank. Now let's have the look in the text that is given after it. So we will have the line by line explanation of that too. Writing in a diary is a really strange experience for someone like me. Not only because I have never written anything before, but also because it seems to me that later on neither I nor anyone else will be interested in the musings of a 13-year-old schoolgirl. Oh well, it doesn't matter. I feel like writing and I have an even greater need to get all kinds of things off my chest. So here at the beginning, Anne tells she feels that for her diary writing is really a strange experience because she is going to do this for the first time in her life. She has never written the diary before in her past. Then she feels that writing a diary is something very strange for her because later on in the future, in the coming future, no one will feel interested in reading the thoughts of a 13-year-old school-going girl. She herself would not be interested in her own thoughts when she will grow up. So that's why she feels that writing a diary is something very strange for her. But the very next moment she puts away all these thoughts and she decides that whatever will happen in the future, do not think about all that. Right now, I am feeling like writing on the paper, writing a diary, so I will do it. Then she tells us that right now I am in a greater need to get all kinds of things off my chest. Means I am in great need of expressing myself because there are so many thoughts floating inside my brain, inside my mind that need to be come out. If I will not throw away all the thoughts that are going floating inside my mind, then certainly I will not feel relaxed. So make myself comfortable. It is required that I must pen down everything that is there inside my heart on a piece of paper in the form of diary. Paper has more patience than people. I thought of this saying on one of those days when I was feeling a little depressed and was sitting at home with my chin in my hands, bored and listless, wondering whether to stay in or go out. So, here, this expression, paper has more patience than people. First of all, let's understand the meaning of it. Here it means that papers would patiently let the writer fill up its blank pages with her thoughts, observations, and comments without judgment and without any interruption. Because paper is a non living thing and it will not disturb the writer when she will pen down all her thoughts on a paper. But at the same time, if she expresses the same thoughts in front of the people, she gets disturbed by the comments of the people. So here the writer chooses the paper to pen down. She chooses to write the diary in place of expressing herself in front of her family, her friends, and other people. Then, further, the writer tells that this realization came to me that paper has more patience than people when one day I was feeling a little depressed, I was sad and upset, and I was sitting in my home with my chin in my hands. I was feeling listless, energyless, I was feeling bored, and I was in dilemma whether I should live inside my house or whether should I go out to roam around in the city. Here children, these two words refer to those days when this girl Anne was hiding along with her family in Amsterdam during Second World War. So at that time because she was not allowed to go outside the house, she was confined within the chamber of her father's office, and there she was having very limited approach to different people. So she was feeling really bored and upset, and then at that time she decided that she should write down her thoughts on a piece of paper in a diary. I finally stayed where I was, brooding. Yes, paper does have more patience, and since I am not planning to let anyone else read this stiff backed notebook, grandly referred to as a diary, unless I should ever find a real friend, it probably won't make a bit of difference. Now I am back to the point that prompted me to keep a diary in the first place. I don't have a friend. Children, here brooding means engaged in or showing deep thought about something that makes one sad, angry, or worried. And stiff-backed notebook refers to a notebook with hard cover. And prompted means provoked. So here, and what does she say? That finally I decided that I will stay in home. I will not go out. I will remain within the chamber of my father's office. I will live there only. And then further she says that now again I thought that paper has more patience, and then she decides to write everything that comes to her mind because she does not intend on making someone read it unless she finds a real friend. And here by real friend she means a friend with whom she could share all her secrets. So the author then comes back to the point where she thought of beginning to write. It is because she is lonely and has no friend to talk to. Let me put it more clearly, since no one will believe that a 13-year-old girl is completely alone in the world. And I am not. I have loving parents and a 16-year-old sister, and there are about 30 people I can call friends. I have a family, loving aunts, and a good home. No, on the surface, I seem to have everything except my one true friend. Now here further, Anne tells us, she explains us that why does she feel a need of a true friend? She feels that no one is going to believe that young girl like her is so alone because practically she appears to have everyone around her. She has a loving family and near about 30 people to whom she can call her friends. She has loving aunts and a very good place to stay. So this all shows a clear picture of a happy family, but the one thing that lacks in her life is the presence of a true friend with whom she can share everything. All I think about when I am with friends is having a good time. I cannot bring myself to talk about anything but ordinary everyday things. We don't seem to be able to get any closer, and that's the problem. Maybe it's my fault that we don't confide in each other. In any case, that's just how things are, and unfortunately, they are not liable to change. This is why I have started the diary. So now here the writer tells us that whenever I am with my friends, I enjoy a lot. I talk with them on different matters. But those matters are the ordinary everyday things. Means those are the topics which are very common. I am not able to express or share my thoughts, my feelings that are my personal feelings, that are something very personal. So maybe this is my fault that I do not get closer to my friends. I do not trust them that I should share my personal feelings, my personal thoughts with my friends. And then further she tells that this situation maybe it will continue for coming future also, and unfortunately it is not going to change. So that is the reason why I have decided to write down the diary. To enhance the image of this long awaited friend in my imagination, I don't want to jot down the facts in this diary the way most people would do, but I want the diary to be my friend, and I am going to call this friend Kitty. Here students, enhance means increase, and to jot down means to write, to note down. So the writer tells us that I was waiting for a true friend for a long time. Now my imagination of a true friend is going to take place in reality in the form of a diary. So here I don't want to write down everything in a formal manner that is done by the most of the people. Here I want to make my diary my friend, my best friend. So first of all I will give my diary a name, and then she names the diary as Kitty. Since no one would understand a word of my stories to Kitty, if I were to plunge right in, I would better provide a brief sketch of my life, much as I dislike doing so. So here children, the writer, the narrator, she hopes that in coming future people will go through her diary, and when they will go through that diary it will be difficult for them to understand if there will be no background of the stories, and if she will not introduce herself, she will not give her brief sketch of herself and her family. So the writer tells us that despite her dislike to do so, she must provide a brief sketch of her life so that it will be convenient for the people who will read her diary in coming future. My father, the most adorable father I have ever seen, didn't marry my mother until he was 36 and she was 25. My sister Margot was born in Frankfurt in Germany in 1926. I was born on 12 June 1929. I lived in Frankfurt until I was 4. So now here Anne tells us that Her father was the most lovable, cute father one could ever find, and he got married to her mother when he was of 36 years and her mother was of 26 years. Then further Anne tells us that my sister Margot was born in Frankfurt in Germany in 1926 and she herself was born on 12 June 1929. And these people lived in Frankfurt until Anne was of 4 years. My father emigrated to Holland in 1933. My mother, Edith Hollander Frank, went with him to Holland in September, while Margot and I were sent to Aachen to stay with our grandmother. Margot went to Holland in December and I followed in February when I was plunked down on the table as a birthday present for Margot. So here Anne tells us that her father shifted to Holland in 1933 with the intention to finally settle down there. And further, she tells us that her mother also followed her father. In the month of September, she went to Holland and she settled down there with her father. And the Margot and Anne, both of these sisters, they were sent to Aachen to stay with their grandmother. After some time in December, Margot also went to Holland and then Anne, she followed Margot in the month of February and there she was presented as a birthday gift to Margot and she was put on the table. She was put down on the table as a birthday present on the day of Margot's birthday. I started right away at Montessori Nursery School. I stayed there until I was 6, at which time I started in the first form. In the sixth form, my teacher was Mrs. Couperus, the headmistress. At the end of the year, we were both in tears as we said our heartbreaking farewell. So Anne tells us here that when she reached to Holland, there she started her education from the Montessori Nursery School and there she stayed until she was 6 years old. When she turned 6 years of age, she took admission in the first form. First form is class 1. So in 6 years of age, she took admission in class 1 and then when she was in sixth form, means in sixth class, her teacher was Mrs. Couperus, who was also the head teacher of the school. Now, further she tells us that at the end of the year, we both were in tears as we said a heartbreaking farewell. So Anne here tells us that when the session came to an end, when I passed my 6th standard, I and my teacher Mrs. Couperus, we both cried a lot because now it was the time to bid farewell to each other. In the summer of 1941, Grandma fell ill and had to have an operation, so my birthday passed with little celebration. Grandma died in January 1942. No one knows how often I think of her and still love her. Now here Anne tells us that in the summer of 1941, her grandma fell ill and she had to face one operation and during that time Anne was having her birthday, so her birthday passed without any celebration on a grand scale. It was celebrated on a very small scale because of the illness of her grandma. Then in January 1942 her grandma died. Now Anne tells us that nobody knows that still I remember my grandma and I so often I think about her and still I love her. This birthday celebration in 1942 was intended to make up for the other, and Grandma's candle was lit along with the rest. The four of us are still doing well, and that brings me to the present date of 20 June 1942 and the solemn dedication of my diary. Now Anne tells that because I could not celebrate my last birthday because of the illness of my grandmother, so this birthday in 1942 was celebrated with great zeal and enthusiasm and with lots of grandness, and grandma's candle was also lit along with the rest of the candles. Now, here the aunt tells that now my introduction is over. We all four, means my mother, my father, my sister, and I, we all are living happily. And now my introduction comes to an end. And now I reach on the date where I am going to start writing my diary with lots of sincerity and pure dedication. So this is 20th June 1942, from which date we will start writing my diary.